The lesson here, kids, never play outside. And for the love of all that is decent, whatever you do in life, never, ever, ever, under any circumstances, picnic at Hanging Rock, which was directed by Peter Weir, who directed Witness, Dead Poets Society, Fearless, The Truman Show, Master and Commander, and The Way Back, written by Cliff Green, who wrote Break a Day in Summerfield, and based on a novel by Joan Lindsay. And this is set in February of 1900 in Australia. And it's set at a young girls' college where there are some that are orphans, some that are there on scholarship, and some that are just there to learn the ways of, well, whatever, from Mrs. Appleyard, who is played by Rachel Roberts. She's a bit of a domineering headmaster or headmistress of a school. Headmistress, of course, is a term that I would react to with the good taste and maturity everybody has come to expect from me. And since it's set in 1900, and it's from the guy that would later direct Dead Poets Society and the movies I mentioned, you're going to get a very slow burn period drama piece with some psychological drama and a bit of eeriness behind it. And I had never actually seen this movie, and I found out that it's on HBO Max, and I was like, you know what? This looks kind of cool from the poster. That sounds like a fun description. Let me watch this. Let me take a dive, and let me just do a retro review of a movie that is nearly 50 goddamn years old. And you know what? This movie still holds up. It's also really weird. Very, very weird. It's very, it's not necessarily psychologically damaging, but you kind of have to interpret stuff for yourself, like what actually happened, by the end of the movie. And since it is about 50 years old, there are going to be spoilers because, sorry, the movie has been out for quite a while. Even if I hadn't heard about it, a lot of other people had seen it. I've never read the novel, and apparently the Hanging Rock Reserve is actually a real place somewhere in Australia, and kind of creeped out some of the people just because of the location and the mountains and the fact it's shot straight up and everything, and just the weird, the surreal nature of the location, just the isolated location of it. The executive producer, Patricia Lovell, in particular, only visited it once, and she wanted to immediately leave. Other people that were in the cast and crew had visited since then, but apparently it holds some kind of lore about it. So the plot, such as it is, involves a bunch of girls that Mrs. Appleyard charges a few trusted other people at the school, hey, go to have a picnic at Hanging Rock. Because if it was anything other than a picnic at Hanging Rock, they wouldn't call it Picnic at Hanging Rock, and they are just having a fun time. But there are some girls that, want to do some more exploring. But Mrs. Appleyard said, under no circumstances can you have any kind of exploration. Don't do that. No, stop. Don't do this anymore. Miranda, in particular, is one played by Anne Louise Lambert, who, she has a bit of a relationship, so to speak, more of a friendship with a girl named Sarah. We find out a little bit more about Sarah as time goes on. Miranda's kind of almost a flower child before flower children were really ever invented. Free spirit, as it were. And even though these girls are in corset, I never understood the corset thing. It just seems so uncomfortable for women. But they're in all these, these tight dresses, and they were, these flowing dresses, but these tight corsets and everything, so it couldn't exactly have been great climbing material. They're going around. Helen Morse is also in this. Jackie Weaver as Minnie. There's a few actors and actresses that you'll recognize in this, and you can check out the IMDb to find out what they were actually in. But basically, they go to Picnic at Hanging Rock. There are a couple guys, Michael and Crudell, who had a first name that escapes me right now. One's Aussie, one's Brit. And they're going into, they're observing these girls that go off, Miranda leading them, and there's also one, Edith, who is, she's kind of like, as they describe, the chubby one. She's the one that kind of complains a whole lot and everything, which I wouldn't necessarily blame her, because Edith seemed like the only smart one to know, hey, this is a really bad idea. They leave the group and they go off and explore more at Hanging Rock. Well, things end up going inevitably south, and these girls disappear, along with one of the charges, Miss Crenshaw. So, oh my God, she's disappeared. What the hell's going on? How can we find them? Because it's an isolated area where you have to climb up pretty goddamn far. And it seems like as the higher you climb, the heat and the sun may beat down on you, and wearing the clothes that they're wearing and not exactly being explorers, things, end up kind of going south. So you're not really sure what the hell happened. Did they get eaten by bears? Because there was a warning of poisonous snakes and ants and stuff like that. Giant ants up there. Cool, we need to make an Australian version of them. I have the original of them. I should review that. Back to this movie. There, the school is obviously messed up because these girls went missing. So, like, what the hell is going to happen? Like, people are thinking maybe somebody, like somebody got there and attacked the girls and arred them. That's all I'm going to say. Please don't say the word there. Assaulted them, all that. So, I will say that one thing about this movie, because it leaves it up to your own interpretation about what actually happened, is it's very atmospheric. The camera, the way it's filmed or whatever, looks a little clothy. It's because apparently Peter Weir put a bridal veil over the goddamn lens to give it that kind of washed out old school feel, which is pretty goddamn nice. The music, haunting as fuck though. Very, very fucking haunting. Very good. Very eerie. And you really feel like, there's something very, very strange about to happen. Like, maybe we're going to get a ghost. Maybe we're going to get something. We don't end up getting any of that. What we get is far scarier, the unknown. I'm not going to say the movie's perfect. Obviously, there are some issues. There are a few pacing issues. I feel like they build enough suspense to the point where it's like, okay, shit, we only have a few minutes left. Boom, we just got to, we just got to throw some stuff there. It's obvious that Mrs. Appleyard is a bit of a bitch. In fact, it's very obvious from the opening. I mean, not just the hairstyle, not just the weird beehive hairstyle before beehive hairstyles were really ever known as. Don't know why it sounds like some kind of weird vacuum, above somebody's head like that. But you can tell that there's something amiss with her. And it turns out that, Edith ends up running back down the whole goddamn thing. Running down the path, and she's all freaking out. Her skirt's torn. She's all freaking out. She doesn't know what she saw. She doesn't know what she saw, but she saw Mrs. McGraw. I'm sorry, not Crenshaw. Miss McGraw. Apologize for getting the names wrong. A lot of weird names in this movie, so I do apologize. She ends up saying that she saw her, like, going back to look for the girls, and then she went missing. So the search continues, and there's a bloodhound gang, because you and maybe baby ain't nothing but mammals, and no, we're not going to do that. Everybody has their own theories about what happens. People in the school, people outside the school, the girls are worried. All this weird shit is going on here. It's very, very strange. And even though I'm offering spoilers, it's also a movie that you have to watch and interpret for yourself. And I know that sounds kind of cliche and everything. It sounds like, I'm just, pushing it away because I didn't understand. No, I understood it. It was just a bit odd. But, Michael, the one, he wears the weird goofy hats or whatever. He was the one that was kind of looking after the girls, and you thought that he might have had something to do with it. Like, he decided to pursue the girls and attack them all when one refused his advances, even though you would think 4-on-1, they could have done something. But that being said, that's never really explored. It's a bit weird that he acted, that he, kept changing his story with the police, but then again, 1900, little bit hard to figure out who's lying, whatever. We'll just accuse the next minority is what the police probably would have said. But they didn't go that route. His friend, Crudell, he ends up finding, or Cruddle, I think is how it's pronounced. He ends up finding one of the girls, Irma, up there. He manages to climb all the way up there after sending Michael away, who was all panicked after, doing the pursuit, and fried in the hot, hot sun. How bizarre, how bizarre. And every time I look around, there's a scratch on my face. Okay, enough song references. He finds this girl, Irma, one of the people that was there, and she somehow, she's dead. He finds her. She's totally dead, just getting the body out the mountain. She's still alive. Okay, how? That's never explained. That's one thing that bothered me a little bit. Like, how did she live? Like, that was a long time they were up there. It was a number of days, maybe a week. I'm not sure. But she can't remember anything. They're trying to talk to her and figure out what the hell's going on. Like, why in the world? Like, 3 others are still missing. How did she survive and everything? It's a time for celebration for Irma, but what in the world's going on? She still doesn't remember. Appleyard is pissed about various things. Tuition not coming in, and Sarah, because she's an orphan and her guardian has not returned a check, is going to have to go away. Sarah, the very creepy one that likely would have burned the school to the fucking ground. So there's another trusted hand, Mrs. Lumley, who's kind of timid as fuck, but also wants to continue doing the school lessons as it were. There's also a Mademoiselle, a very beautiful French woman. who really does love the girls. You kind of almost think a little bit too much based on how she acted towards them, but I digress. That's also never really explored on, just barely touched upon. Bad choice of words there. I'd give, a couple guys are discussing, I'd give everything, I'd give my head to know what went on up there, and more stuff happened. And various people are just all, philosophizing about what could possibly be going on up there. It turns out Sarah lived in an orphanage. They didn't treat her well and everything. She liked Miranda, obviously. That's kind of just put off to the side, even though she has almost a seeming altar to her. Mademoiselle keeps checking on Irma. Irma can't remember anything, but she's eventually going to go back and live with her parents. Mike also starts seeing some things, having some weird dreams, same with his friends, same as it ever was, and as the days go by, this movie gets weirder. There's reporters trying to figure out what's going on with this, because sensationalizing media happened all the way back even in 1900. And the one scene where it's like things just go fucking off the rails is these girls are doing some kind of dance type thing or whatever with boards in a, boards lower down like on ropes in a barnyard dance craze. Never really took off like you thought. Irma came in. She's about to leave, but it says you can talk freely or whatever. Talk to her. Well, nobody's talking. And suddenly this music starts playing. Mrs. Lumley starts playing. And then they're like, tell us what happened, Irma. Tell us. And they're pursuing her. And then, like, just, it's weird. It's almost midsummer, like the way everybody was acting. And one of the teachers slaps her. Like, what? Slaps Edith because Edith is panicking. And that was actually kind of funny. I don't know why I laughed so much at that. And then we just look over and Sarah's suddenly strapped to the wall to help with her bad posturing. Like, what the hell's going on at this school? It's very weird. Because Lumley decided, hey, I'm just going to do that. I don't really understand what's happening. Appleyard talks to Sarah and says, you're going to go back to the orphanage because your guardian hasn't responded and what the hell's going on? All right. So we're near the end of the movie. Seriously, by this point, we are about 15 minutes from the end of the movie. The next day, even though Lumley's checked on Sarah, she said, hey, she's saying, well, what happened to Sarah? Appleyard's like, well, she went back to live with her guardian. Her guardian came in and got her or whatever. It's all good. Don't worry about it. Don't have to look for anything. Nothing bad happened here. Why are you shifting your eyes, Mrs. Appleyard? No reason. And everybody's just doing what they're doing. The school is clearly falling apart at this point. That Appleyard drinks and says some weird shit while other people in the school are looking on like, hey, what did you mean by that? Why are things going on? Sarah did not go with her guardian. One old guy is looking around his greenhouse, and it's right below the school. And Sarah's body is in the bushes in there. Why? Because Mrs. Appleyard threw her through the window. Why? Because she went nuts. Or she was a bitch, or she was a killer. One of the two. And then the narrator tells us that Mrs. Appleyard's body was found at the base of Hanging Rock about 6 weeks after the incident happened. And that's about it. 5-6 weeks, something like that. I think it's like March 27, 1900. And maybe she was looking for the girls. Maybe she threw herself off the rock. Who the hell knows? Hanging a Picnic Rock was quite a good movie. It was just really, really bizarre. Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments if you've seen this movie. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Retlin. I'll see you soon.